right, folks, we're going to get started. My name is Rachael Fecyk-Lamb, and I'm a member of the MASH advisory team. I have been homeschooling my son since the beginning. He's going into grade 5. I previously homeschooled 2 sets of different nephews at different times. And previous to my son coming along, I was a school teacher. And so at the moment, I'm still working with teachers. I work in the Faculty of Education at U of M. So I kind of have my one foot in each world, the school world and the homeschooling world. But for us, the alternative idea of homeschooling made sense for our family. So that's why we chose it. So today we're going to talk about the Manitoba curriculum and how you might want to use it in homeschooling. As we go along, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and I'll pause every now and then and look at those questions and answer those as we go. So to start with, we know this is why we're here. We're going to talk about ways to use the curriculum. But this is a really important point, and it's not just with the provincial curriculum, but it's with any book or document that you might use to guide your work with your kids, because that's a key. They are guides. Using a book or a curriculum document doesn't mean you have to do every single page by page. What it means is you look at it and you say, what makes sense for my child? And so what might make sense for your child is for you to read ahead, and instead of doing this paperwork, doing something hands-on and talking about it, instead of reading and writing all the time. You would be looking at the same information, but you would be adapting it to your child. Another way that you might adapt or change this guide might be to just omit some parts because they don't make sense for your context or your child already knows it. We like to use jump math for our math, for example, and jump math has tons and tons of review in it. And when we get to those review parts, sometimes it's just like, we'll do, all right, look at 2 questions on this page. All right, forget it. We're skipping these 3 pages. There's no need to do that when he is quite sure about it. He's going to be bored and he's going to be unhappy looking at it. So we just have to remember curricular guides, and we use them and then adapt the ideas that make sense to the folks in our room. I do have to make one more point, and it's about school teachers. School teachers never teach an entire curriculum the way it is in the documents. They don't teach every unit, and if the units they teach are not all taught the way they are in the guide, in the document. And the reason is because every class has such a high range and difference in students, different needs, and you could not teach one topic the way a piece of paper tells you to teach it every year to the same students. Those teachers need to adapt and make it work for the group in front of them. And sometimes you can't get to every unit. And I'll give you 2 examples. In grade 7 science, there is a unit about the earth crust and rocks on rocks on Earth and the shifting crust surface, which would go into volcanoes. Many grade 7 teachers don't even touch that topic because there's just so much going on with the other science topics, they just never get to that one. And one last example I would like to share is my neighbor across the road has a daughter going into grade 6, and he says, Rachel, why can't she tell time yet? And I said, well, I don't know. like, I don't know if she was there on the days they were teaching it, or if she didn't engage when they were being taught, so it wasn't sort of catching her interest, or maybe the teachers didn't have time. Of all the things in the math curriculum in grade 3 and 4, maybe that was one thing the teachers chose not to look at with the students. So the moral of the story is, anything you use with your children are guides, and you're going to make them work for your children. Does anyone have any questions before I move forward? And so when I ask that, I'm just looking in the chat box to see if anyone. All right, great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some of the documents, and I'm going to share how you might choose to use them. And we're going to start at the MASH website. And from there, I'm going to go through all these steps to take you down to 2 documents, which are my learning at home and my child in school. Those are the first 2 places we're going to start. So I'm going to screen share. Okay. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen right now? Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so I got to this page by Googling. I always Google MASH homeschool group, and it takes me right here. It would be smart of me just to bookmark this, but I haven't done that yet. But so I always Google MASH homeschool group, and I get this right away. There's tons of information out there, on this site. And if I go to the FAQs, I would really recommend, if you're new to homeschooling, that you take a look at some of the stuff that's here. There are, what is a curriculum? There's a little article about that. Socialization is a question that most folks have. If you're getting started, this is a really nice video to give you sort of the overall of homeschooling. So there's lots going on here, but what we're going to go to is the very first one, Manitoba Government Resources. And from here, I see lots of interesting things we could look at. We made a video the other day about the notification package, and this is where you can find it from the MASH website. I'll also just point you to Manitoba Distance Learning. If you have students in grade 9 to 12, they can take their courses via distance learning through independent study options, and they would submit their assignments to be graded by a teacher who works for the Manitoba Distance Learning Office, and your high school students will get regular grades and credits that can go on a transcript if you choose this way to educate. But we're going to go here. We're going to go to the Manitoba curriculum. And my child in school, which was on my list here, we're not going there right away. We're going to start at the very bottom where it says the complete provincial curriculum. And this is the main page for all the curriculum information. And later this evening, we're going to go through and look at a couple of these areas. But to start with, I want to draw your attention to this one for parents. So if I click on the parents, families, and communities, there are really great documents with information here. And I would suggest you take a little time looking at my learning at home and my child in school. So we're going to start with my learning at home. And this, I don't know who made this, but they did a wonderful job with it. They have these 4 topics going on here, and it was in that time when you were at home with your children and they were remote learning with their teachers. So I picked the first Learning at Home tab here. And there's such great advice here about routines, spaces for learning, how you can support your child, and then specific advice for the different age groups. Like, this is super important. If you're able, take away some of your kids' toys and books and hide them. And then after a few weeks or 3 weeks or a month, flip them around. And those toys and books are like they're brand new because they haven't seen them. So have fewer options, but then flip them around. So that's for those early, I would be doing that in early years too. In addition, there's good information here about the different subject areas. For example, if I look at math, I see lots of little things that might be helpful. There's jump math there, which I had mentioned earlier, that teachers also use. And this is interesting also. If you go into these ones, there's a whole little play, I don't know if this isn't really called a page, but section about middle years and what's happening in adolescence and helping your child succeed in common questions for working with kids going through puberty, kids who are just coming up to it. And so super interesting stuff there. So I was really impressed when I found this. So I'm going to back up one. So that information was this Learning at Home one. Everyday learning activities, also really great ideas here. Now, some of this is more that I would, or many homeschoolers would do in a day. For example, like we wouldn't talk about and work with art every single day in my family, although we do like to do something creative every day. We might not have discussions about it every day, okay? Things about physical education, all of this, creative ways to play. So all kinds of good stuff here. It really is a treasure trove. And then they have the activities by educational stage. So again, you can look at your age group and consider those ideas. I'm going to flip back once more to this beginning. Online resources. This is the kind of stuff homeschoolers could definitely use. And you can look at these ideas and add them into whatever topics you are currently studying. Or you could just play around and go into some of these places, and then you might start a unit based on what you found interesting. And then lastly, I won't go into this one, is the Staying Healthy. The Staying Healthy one was first written because we were all shut up in our homes because of COVID, and lots of kids were sitting around and probably looking at screens. And so there's information about what we could, strategies we could use to keep healthy in those times when we're spending so much time in our home. So this is the first section I wanted to make you aware of. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. And so what that was my learning at home. And that was, as I said, written for parents or guardians during the COVID lockdown. But I find there's so much great stuff there that might be of use. Does anyone have any questions? I'm looking at the chat, and y'all seem to be fine. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to look at our next. So how would I use this? I might use this just as background knowledge and reference for myself, see what's out there, and then I might find ideas to add what I'm already doing. My child at school is where we're going next. So I'm going to screen share one more time. And then I'm going to ask you to give me another thumbs up if you can see it. If you can see my screen. Anyone want to give me a thumbs up? Thank you. Thank you, Mel. All right, so I'm going to go back here where we previously were at the parents and families. And I see this, my child in school. Many homeschoolers use this. And just to know what's happening in the school system. And of course, it's for all parents to just know what's going on. So what you can do is you can pick your grade. So I'm going to pick grade 4. And when I pick grade 4, now we have all the different subject areas. So you could pick a subject area and find out what's going on. So if I pick science, okay, so here there's a little paragraph, what's going on in science in grade 4, the properties of light, recognizing that it travels in a straight line. Light is a form of energy. They learn about sound in grade 4, the human ear. They learn about rocks and minerals. This is one reason. Remember I said about the grade 7 teachers who often don't look at that topic? Well, it has been looked at in grade 4 a little bit. So these are the basic topics, but let's click on the Curriculum Essentials poster. And now let's look at grade 4. Now I can really see in a way that I can read it more easily. This is it. These are the 4 topics for grade 4. From kindergarten to grade 8, there are 3 or 4 topics for science and 3 or 4 topics for social studies. And what teachers generally do is they go back and forth during the year. So they'll do 1 science, 1 social studies, 1 science, 1 social studies. They don't generally teach them at the same time. And so if you might be doing something related to social studies in October, you've probably done something related to science at the end of September, beginning of October, and you'll get back into science in November at some point. So I see the big topics here. I see it broken down a little bit here. These numbers, we don't have to worry about those. These numbers are objectives for teachers. We don't need them. But we can read here what is the specific information. Okay, and I'm just going to look at my chat because I know some people have said a few things, but I have problems that I lose my chat box on my screen. See, I can't find it anywhere. I'm going to stop share for 1 second. There's my chat box. This is way simpler than the pages of the documents. Yes. Will this video be available? Yes, it will, for sure. Okay, so now that I've got you here, I want to say something about this. So one way to use the curriculum is to get into the My Child in School, and we're going to look a little bit more at that, and just take the topics. So when I take a topic, for example, rocks and minerals, what I would do personally is I would go to the Winnipeg Public Library, rocks and minerals, look at the resources for kids, and I would take out 10 to 15 books about rocks and minerals. And I would be sure that at least one of those books had hands-on activities and experiments. And there's always something in science like that. So you could have, all right, you're doing something on sinking and floating, you're going to find a book with hands-on experiments. You're doing something with gravity, there will be a book with hands-on experiments. We tend to go for the books, and then I would bring up some YouTube videos and watch the information on YouTube. Often, I don't have that completely pre-planned with my child. We sit there and look at the videos together, a video on gravity, and this isn't a very good video. What do you think? No? Okay, let's see what the next one is. Oh yeah, this is better. And he'll be like, and so then I'll say, okay, we're watching this one again because this one really gets it. And then we're gonna talk about it after we watch it. So I don't completely pre-plan all my videos, but I have my stack of books. I'm looking through them. He's looking through them. We do lots of activities. But I just used the curriculum for the topic. That's how I used the curriculum. Any questions about this before I go back to sharing? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to screen share. You know what I need to do? I need to move my chat over. Sorry, folks, I'm just gonna try something. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm back sharing. Give me a quick thumbs up. Y'all can see me? I'm getting no thumbs up. There they are. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Amy. All right, so I'm gonna go back, and I could look at any of these other grades. So I could look at grade 8. Same idea. I would go to the library and find information. You could very easily find information online to help you with this. You can honestly just Google grade 8 cells and systems and see what comes up. Or you could Google this kind of thing. Okay, cells, tissues, organs, body system, grade 8. And then get some information there. Okay. So these posters are available for grade 1 to grade 8. And when I plan my year and think about my year, I don't always look at just the grade we're going into. So for example, if I had a grade 3 student, I might look at these, okay, that's cool. But then I might look up at what's going on in grade 4, and I would look back at what's going on in grade 2, and I might say, you know what, we're not gonna do this, we're gonna try something that was in grade 2, or we're gonna choose a unit that's in grade 4. The other thing that can happen is you might end up doing something with your family and you end up coming into a science topic that's just something going on with life. And let me tell you an example. We went to a cottage. My nephews, my son and I, and family, we went to a cottage, and there was a sandy beach, and this was near Kenora. And so we ended up talking about how does sand get created, which led to a discussion about erosion and what waves do to rocks and shells. And then I got the idea from this and grew it bigger. We ended up collecting sand from a couple different places. And from the grandparents' house in Tisdale, we got sand, in Saskatchewan, sorry. And we collected sand from Winnipeg. We brought home sand from Kenora. We looked at it under a microscope. I found some experiments about weathering and erosion. And then when it came time to write our report in January, nope, it's not that one. It's either, I think it might be grade 6 or grade 8 that we do this. Oh, did we have it in grade 8 already? Was that where it was? Oh no, it's around here. Weathering and erosion comes in here somewhere. I don't know where it is. Whatever one I didn't hit, it's up here somewhere. we were younger. We were like in grade 2, grade 3 when we did all of this. But when I wrote my report, I wrote in it, I see that this is on the curriculum for grade 7, 8. We've talked about all these ideas already. That's it. And so we might, well, it's something that we would talk about often to repeat it, but I just refer to the curriculum when I write my reports also in January. Now, what about the older folks? What about if you are in grade 10 or high school? And what you will do for the high school levels is you'll pick English program. And now you can see all the subjects that students take in every grade. And so with your high school child, you could choose to do the independent study option, as we mentioned, or you might choose to find a textbook about this, or choose to just, I'm going to show you where you get a better description of each course, by the way. You could choose to follow the ideas in the curriculum document, or you choose to go your own way and find science in your real life, because that's what homeschoolers often do. That we don't stick to any document like this per se. I'm going to go back one more, and I am going to go back down to the younger years, and we're going to look at social studies. So social studies from kindergarten to grade 8, it will tell you the different topics. So you can see here, there's 3 topics for social studies in grade 2. And we would again go to the posters, and I could go to grade 2. And now I have information about what they do in grade 2 social studies. And once again, if you read the small print, there's more information going on here. So these beautiful posters exist for science, social studies, and math. But I'm going to stop sharing for a moment again. And so what we looked at is we were looking at my learning at home. My child in school was getting us to those posters and to specific information at each grade level. And those posters are called curriculum essential posters. Oh, where's my blue? Here it is. I'll just put that here. This word, curriculum essentials, is also on the MASH website. Does anyone have any questions? Keep a legacy report so that they can see. Okay, well, here's the answer to that. They keep everything in a file, but people don't really look at that file, to be honest. They do look at your reports when you send them in, and then they go in the file, but the reports don't get looked at again until you might be looking at going into post-secondary school. If you were to go back into the public school or education school from kindergarten to grade 8, they're going to put you at grade level, at age grade level. So if your birthday, you're going to turn 10 in that calendar year, you're going to be in grade 5. It does not matter what your education is before that, you will be put with your age appropriate peers. In high school, things are a little different, but to answer the question, Rebecca and Thomas, you don't necessarily have to say that you've done this and that anyone will ever look back. I find it useful for me to know that we've done this, but yeah, just sort of know where it all fits in and everything. Oh, that was a really wordy answer. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to go back to screen sharing. All right, and we're going to look for your thumbs up. I'm pretty sure it's working okay now because I've had it a couple times and y'all have seen it. Thanks, everybody who put your thumbs up. Excuse me. All right, so as I said, you can look at any grade level and any subject level here and just get the big picture. You can use this as a guide, and then you can create and do your own things with those topics. I'm going to go back here. We're back on the MASH website. So you can see MASH is here. We're at the Manitoba Curriculum Information. So we just looked at my child in school, and we looked at the Curriculum Essentials posters. Now we're going to look at some of these documents. In homeschooling, we are required to do something for math, science, social studies, and language arts. And then you can do other things as well as you wish. You don't need to write up those other things, but you can if you like. These areas, I'm going to start with science. Everything except language arts has lesson plans available. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. We're going to start with math. What you want to look for is you want to look for the words curriculum documents and foundation for implementation, and I'm going to write these on the board after, or support documents. So I'm here under math. I'm going to go to curriculum documents, and there is information. This is all just general stuff. What you don't want to get into is curriculum framework of outcomes. That is all the education jargon. That is very detailed objectives. Instead, you want to get to something like this, supports. So when we look at these supports, we'll go to grade 3. Mathematics is divided into 4 areas. Numbers, patterns and relations, shapes, this is like geometry, statistics, probability, this is also called data management. This is like if you do a survey, what do you do with the information after the survey? How do you put it in a chart? How do you read a graph? That kind of thing. So if I can, as a parent, I could choose, you can look at the whole document, but I'm just going to go right into one of the 4 topics. And the topics is numbers. This is lovely because it tells you what you want your child to be able to do. So in grade 3, you need to be counting by tens and hundreds. You need to be skip counting by 25s. For this particular outcome, there's more. And it gives the teacher background knowledge. This means if the teacher doesn't know the math, it talks about it for them. This goes all the way up to grade 8. I was working with a teacher who was teaching grade 7 math, but that wasn't her area. Her area was actually science. And so every time she was teaching, she was reading and learning the math to make sure she was ready, she could get it. So you've got the background so we can learn the math, some language that we use in math, and then this is just if you want to give them a little pre-test to see what they already know, suggestions for instructions. Okay, so these are now activities that you can do with your students, with your kids. Okay, and then they give a little assessment at the end. Now I have a new topic. I know what I'm going for. I need my grade 3 students to read 3-digit numbers. I need to be able to say 321, not 321. Okay. They need to understand how this looks. If you can see under my cursor here, these equations or these expressions. And now we're going to teach you. Let's teach the parents what this information is about. And some mathematical words that you're probably going to use. And now you've got your activities. You're going to play concentration. Maybe you're going to have a number of the day as one of the things you do with your kids. Here's the number of the day. Here's what we're doing with it. So this is super helpful. And I've used this. I've used this with grade 1. I've gone through the grade 1, all the different parts, and I never do everything. That's the other thing. It's a guide, right? So I'm going to look and say, oh yeah, my kid can do this already, but I'm not sure if my child can do that. And then I'm just going to skim through the activities. Oh, that'll be fun. Oh, we could do that. Oh, that one makes sense. So I would never do everything in it, but I would do what made sense for us. So you've got this. This is like your whole math lesson for September to June, your whole math course for grade 1 to grade 8, and activities for everything, for all of them. Now for me, I'm a fan of Jump Math, but there's lots of other great programs out there. Singapore Math is another great one. Beast Academy is one people talk about. I don't know them all off the top of my head. But one of the reasons I like Jump Math is it's completely aligned with the curriculum, and it's teachers use it in the school system too, and it's very easy to use. If you have older students, older kids, these are mental math, so having them do work in their head, so you've got lots of activities there. But I'm just going to go back to here for a moment because there's something in here with high school courses that you're distance learning for your independent studies. Did I miss it under curriculum supports? No, it's not there. Oh, these ones, these are the ones at the top. So they don't have the full high school math courses here, but they've got these two, which look amazing. I looked at them. So home finance, essential math, and want to buy a new car, want to buy a car, how are you going to finance that? So those courses look great. All right, does anyone have any questions about what the math section offers? Okay. So the way we got there, and I will review this later, is we went to curriculum documents, and then we went to curriculum supports. The key words you're always looking for are supports or the word implementation. The other thing you can do with this video, because it will be recorded, is that you could watch this video while playing on the website yourself. And so you could sort of pause it and then follow me as you're doing it yourself. So at this point, I am going to go to science, which is where I was going to go before. All right, so here I am. This is about being safe. This is cool, a Lake Winnipeg resource for science, teaching science in grade 12. But where am I going to find my information? Okay, I'm going to start with curriculum documents. And it got me right to where I wanted to be, because I want this word implementation here. That's what I'm looking for. So this is kindergarten to grade 4, and then these levels are on their own. This is 5 to 8. So I'm going to do kindergarten to grade 4 science. And I can see everything they're doing in science. So kindergarten has 3 topics, and the other grades have 4 topics. And I can choose a topic. It doesn't matter what we choose. Let's choose light in grade 4. All right, so now we have the topic light. And what we have here is, again, things that teachers could use directly and that we might choose to use also. So this is our information. These are the objectives, but these are the kinds of things that you would do in class. Now you're going to write your science journal, and these are on the left-hand side is giving us definitions so we understand. Okay, is it reflecting? Is it natural or artificial? All of these are activities that you would do with your children. Now you're going to make a light box. How do you do that? Okay, and more suggestions. Look what else you can do. This looks super cool. Okay. So you could essentially click this and you've got everything there. Now it would have been easier for me perhaps to do that, but I wanted to have lots of books around for us to look at, and then I got my hands on from there. But I will say that I did go through the magnetism one in grade 3. One day I sat down, I read through the whole magnetism cluster. That's the forces that attract and repel. And then we got out a whole bunch of magnets, and we just kind of went through the whole thing, and we did it in a couple of days. And that was the end of it. By grade 3, they already knew a lot about it, because magnets seems to come up at earlier ages, just in life. But I did read through it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could do that. So you do have your complete lesson plans for science here. Same thing for grades 5 to 8. So that would probably be helpful when I need to learn about cells, that I should look there, or I could Google it, as I mentioned. But now you've got the same thing for your high school courses. So this is grade 9, and in grade 9, there's 4 topics that they study. Okay, reproduction, atoms and elements, nature and electricity, exploring the universe, and it's the same idea. You would look at go directly to your unit, and now you've got information about how to teach it going on here. The tricky part with high school science is you may need more materials that aren't as easily available in your home. So that would be one of the tricky things. But you could perhaps use videos to supplement if you weren't able to do an actual experiment. So science is amazing. It gives you everything that you need. So is math, and I'm going to show you one more, which is social studies. Social studies, okay, I'm going over here. I'm looking at curriculum documents. They've done it like this. I'm going to this time choose grade 5 to 8, and they've done the same thing, implementation. So I will choose that. And I have all of the topics that are happening in grade 5. I will pick it. There's 4 topics. I'm going to pick the first one. And these ones are a lot prettier than the science ones. They talk a little bit about assessment, and then they have organized their activities into 3 areas. Activate, which is to get the students thinking. Okay, so these are all getting you thinking about the topic. More activities. Look at them all. And now this would be learning new information. That's what acquire is. Learning new information. It's all activities that you could choose to do. And then apply. These are more activities where they're applying the knowledge that the new knowledge that they've learned. I'm going to go back once more. I'm going to get to the chat in just a second. I want to show you also grades 9 to 12, where it's the same thing. You've got your whole courses here, whole courses. And when you see black line masters, that means handouts that you can photocopy. So I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so before I look at all of the questions here, I'm going to mention that, so basically what you've got there is, if you wanted, you could use the lesson plans that have been prepared. But to say it again, teachers don't use all the stuff that's there. They will adapt and change as makes sense to their students. They will add or they will omit as makes sense. You're the best teacher of your children. You know your children better than anyone. So you will be able to figure out, should we do this one? Shouldn't we do this one? But it's there if you want. So let me just look at what the questions are going on here. So Amy says, will the child still get credit if we follow this curriculum? The independent course option is very costly. Unfortunately, the answer is no. You will not get official credit for it. What happens is, if your child is looking at going into post-secondary, the post-secondary institutions, you would want to know what are their course prerequisites. They actually don't care if we have high school diplomas. What they care about is that you have the prerequisites for the faculty they're going into. So if you have a child who might be going into nursing or might be going into sciences, they would be saying, okay, you need to have grade 11 and 12 sciences and maths. So that might mean you would choose to do the independent study for those ones, and everything else you wouldn't pay for that independent study. But that then the child would have those official credits. And if your child is going back into school, so let's say you have a child in grade 9 and you're going to homeschool, you might follow this stuff, or you might do an independent study. You can get it and not get it marked. You can just follow the materials, and that doesn't cost anything. If you do that, then you would talk to your high school next year and say, look, we did this. And often, but not always, high schools will say, okay, then we're just going to put you into the grade 12 history, or we're going to put, sorry, not grade 12, grade 10 history, or we're going to put you in grade 10 science. And if it's going well, we'll continue. And depending on the school, they might back credit. So if your child does well in the upper level sciences, they might back credit the grade 9 or the grade 10 if they did well in grade 11. But this is completely school by school, and so it depends on the administration. Okay, so I'm good. Amy, I hope that helped a little bit. Rebecca and Thomas say, could this year in particular be a challenge? So many homeschooling library closures. Are you getting a sense that obtaining resources could be a real challenge? A couple of things on that. You can still get things from the library. You order them online, you reserve them, and then you go pick them up. Some of us do have this little teeny tiny fear that everybody's going to go to the library and take all the books. So I don't know. However, we can always get things online, videos, you can get articles online. On YouTube, they're going to read, there's stories that are there that are being read aloud online. For the little ones, you can find tons of great books where people are reading them out loud. So if you can't get to the library, and of course there's audiobooks. So maybe it will be a challenge to get the library books. Otherwise, I don't know. I think we're going to be okay with our digital things if we can't get books. Okay, so we're going to look at Patrick's question. It's the same kind of question as Amy. Will my daughter get credit for her grade 11 if I follow the curriculum and she tries to return to school for grade 12? So there's two answers to that. Patrick, you might want to consider the independent study option if you're really nervous about that. Or you could go for it in grade 11. And there's some schools, some high schools have said, okay, you know what? We'll let your child write the exam, the grade 11 exam, and then we'll put them in grade 12. So different schools kind of handle it different ways. I would really hope that there's a lot of empathy and support. I think there is. I think schools are full of a lot of great people. So I would think hopefully they would help you in that way. Another idea is if you're working with your high school students, you don't have to do this for elementary, okay? You don't. It might be nice though. But for high school students, keep a portfolio. Like keep the work that they do, digital work or paperwork, when they are studying. So if they are doing the Manitoba curriculum and your child builds a diorama or something, take photos of it so you can show that she's done this work, or keep copies of the questions and answers or the summaries that they wrote. So whatever kinds of assignments that your child did, maybe keep it in a portfolio, and that would be proof of learning when you go back. And that would, if they went right into grade 12, then they would be able to back credit grade 11 as long as your child is doing okay in the grade 12. Yeah. Other questions? Okay, so I'm going to do something on my board here. This was how we got to my learning at home and my child at school. And the curriculum essentials came from my child at school, but they're also on the main page, on the government page of the MASH website. The other thing I want to just emphasize, when you're in the main government curriculum, I can't remember how MASH puts it on their page, but it's the main curriculum. And when I say that, it's when they have all the subjects listed. When you get to math, your keyword is support. You want to get to support documents. But for science and social studies, your keyword is implementation. To find what you're looking for activities. Implementation. I have to sound it out still. Okay. What is the most difficult one? English language arts. Did you notice I never said anything about that? It could be French language arts if you're schooling in French. English language arts curriculum doesn't give a lot of information about how to teach it. And it does not give lesson plans. To be honest, I haven't looked really closely at the high school stuff, so you might see if there's anything there, but it leaves a lot to the teachers to figure out. The teachers decide what books to use. The teachers decide how they're going to teach printing. There's no lesson plans for that. So when it comes to the reading side of it, if you're in teaching the little ones, I personally would use phonics as a route to go to teach letter, sound, correspondence. I would also do something with sight words, so you can recognize words very quickly, words like the or ah. And you might consider some of those phonics-based readers to consider. There's lots of ways to do this, but phonics-based readers like Bob Books or Hooked on Phonics, or what's the reading one that has spelling? There's a spelling and reading one that go together. Okay, I'll think of it. I've got it over there. Oh, all about reading, all about spelling, those ones. So those are options with your little ones. For everybody up to 14 years old, research shows that all those kids should be read out loud to 5 days a week. And the kids who are read aloud to all the way up until high school, read aloud to every day, become better readers, they have deeper vocabulary, and better writers. Now, it's also, we all know that the more you read, the better you read, the more you write, and the more you read, the better you write. So reading is like the one key to a lot of stuff. But if your child is still working on the reading, you have to do lots of reading aloud. And if your child is already reading, also read aloud to them. And one of the ideas is that your child can play with Lego, or your teen or whomever you're with. They can play with Lego. They can draw pictures. They can lie down on the floor and stare at the ceiling, or they can cuddle with you while you're reading. They can do things while you're reading, but read aloud. So that's huge. Cursive is optional in most of Canada, I think. However, some teachers choose to teach it. The thing about our schools is teachers have so much to do, and they have such a large number of needs in one room, and now they have to teach technology too. They have to get rid of stuff. And so cursive was just one that's like, we just don't have time anymore. Even though there is research to say that cursive writing is good for the brain, but we just don't have time, so we don't. A good program for printing from like 4 years old up until about grade 6 is Learning Without Tears. That program will take them from very basic printing all the way up to cursive. But it's your choice. You don't have to teach cursive. You can teach keyboarding, which we do anyway too. So anyway, I don't have a lot of help for English language arts. The older grades, you're going to want to add writing. Everybody can write journals, but the older grades might consider looking at how to write a paragraph, or how to write an essay, creative writing, poetry writing. So what you might just do is either find a canned curriculum elsewhere that covers these ideas, or just Google grade 9 writing activities, or grade 9 nonfiction reading strategies, something like that. So this is the one I haven't been as helpful on. Okay, does anyone else have any other questions or ideas? I'm looking at the chat box. Can you see my eyes looking down? Aaron had a question. Who's Aaron? Aaron, are you? Oh, there you are. I see you up there. Aaron's my brother's name. Would you just use the curriculum through the Manitoba sites versus a curriculum you would purchase? This is where it's completely your decision. You can do absolutely either. And a lot of homeschoolers do a mix. So, for example, I use Jump Math as my only math curriculum. I do completely my own thing for English at Language Arts, just basically out of my head. And by Googling read alouds for grade 6, novel studies for grade 6, that's basically the basis of my English Language Arts. But I refer to the science and social studies. And I sometimes look at what's going on there, but sometimes I don't. So a lot of folks do a mix. And so it's up to you. If it's going to be easier for you to buy something and you can afford it, then great. So yeah, it kind of depends. And I have found for the early years, a lot of our social studies just comes from life. So if we're meeting new people or we're going on vacation, we're going to build a social studies unit into that. Or my son is reading a book that happens to have ancient Greeks in the book, so I'm going to build social studies into that and get a bunch of books on the ancient Greeks. So we just kind of, we mix it up. Okay, I'm backing it up. Any suggestions for dyslexia? I do not have any suggestions right now for that. What I would recommend is if you're on our Facebook group, you could ask that question. And also in September, October, we're going to be having a few Wednesday sessions with different speakers on Wednesday evenings. And there is going to be there's going to be a session with speakers who have children with different challenges like dyslexia. Could you share the information about the independent study option? Yes, I would go to the MASH website, go to government documents, and under that, it's the very bottom link. Go to distance education and ask them for access. Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that'll do it for you.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
If you don't want to pay for the independent study option, how can you get access to the materials?
Oh, there is a posting. I know that it has just changed. So it used to, the way that they used to do it is not the way that they're doing it anymore. So, but it is still there for you to do an audit. And I do know in the Facebook group, I will try to go find it and post it before we're done here, but there is a step-by-step on how to get there.
Okay, thanks. First of all, I'm not a mathematician by any means, and just from the books, I've done fine getting up to grade 5. However, the website, there's lots of information and helpful information for teachers and parents on the website for the math. So, I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that one, Laura. And maybe check out Singapore Math and see what the reviews say about that one. Where would you purchase curriculum? I don't purchase very much, so I don't know. However, you can Google top homeschool curriculum. Like, you can get them from publishers. Basically, you buy them from the publishers or from a distributor. And go ahead.
Amazon carries a lot. There's a local gentleman out of Carmen. He has a lot of Christian resources, but he does carry some other ones called Heritage Resources. There's one out of Calgary called the Canadian Home Educational Resources Share for short. There's a few that have been posted in the Facebook group. There's learninghome.ca, I think she's out of New Brunswick. So there's quite a few of them around. It's just a matter of trying to find them. If you go to, I can get the link for that. She has a complete listing, I think. So I'll see if I can post that before we go.
Okay, so you know what's funny, Amy Ray? When this video is posted, you're just going to fast forward all the way to the end and then go back a little bit to hear Jennifer's list, okay?
I will try to put the list in the YouTube notes.
Okay. There's a note there about using something called Barton for dyslexia. Heritage Resources has a lot of stuff. You can go there in person. Great. All right. Any last questions before I say my last words? All right. So the big summary is there are things that can be helpful if you choose in the Manitoba curriculum documents. You don't have to. You can use other documents. You can do it on your own, like as your family moves and evolves through life. You might find a social studies topic or find a science topic that makes sense for your family. But if you choose to, there are things in there. And always understand that you never have to take a curriculum page by page and use it like that. You will use what makes sense for your children. And you can omit, you can add as you go along. And also remember that the teachers in our school system don't teach everything in those documents, for sure. They will cut out whole units if it makes sense for the group they're teaching. And that's it. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that you came, and we will have this recorded and posted as soon as we're able. You can find the recording on the MASH website, and it'll also go online. That's all. Thanks, everybody.